This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, The Wizard. We have with us today Daniel Connolly from Rogers Park. He's an songwriter. He's a songwriter. Uh, he's a musician, and he's an advocate for immigrants and homeless. But the immigrants, you work with the National Immigrant Justice Center,
Yes,
Daniel?
yes. I'm glad to be here also. I have to say, thanks Trudy for inviting me, and Bill, who's behind the scenes, for your support. I really appreciate your support. I'd like to say I really appreciate what you guys do in the community. You're always you're kind of at the forefront of a lot of important things in the community. I always see you and Bill at these events, and trying to make connections and make positive things happen. So I'm really impressed with you guys and happy to know you.
What is important is that our community has people like you, Daniel, and your work and your dedication. So tell me a little bit about how long have you been writing songs and music, but which one came first?
Well, the music came first. I many moons ago, my father my dad brought home a little ukulele, and this was a long time ago when there was like a folk revival movement in the country, and he fancied himself as maybe learning how to play the ukulele and sing. He was a music lover, and he had a really fine voice. And so he brought this little instrument home, this ukulele, and he taught me how to play 3 chords on it, and they're easy enough. The ukulele is kind of easy to get into.
Do you still remember the first song that you learned how to play on the ukulele?
Yeah, it was a Harry Belafonte song that he taught me, and I used to sing that song. It's called Jamaica Farewell is the name of the song.
I will look that up.
And so that was the first song I believe I learned how to play. 3 chords and the truth. Like there's just thousands, if not more, songs that you can play with 3 chords.
Wow.
And somewhat less you can play with 2 chords. But it's not. There's kind of a low a low bar for entry into playing music. I learned when I was 5 or 6 years old. That was the start of it, I guess. And
so if you're starting earlier, that's better because it becomes second nature with you, I think.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Although it's also maybe somewhat embarrassing to have, having been playing for as many years as I have, one would hope that there'd be a higher level of virtuosity in my performance, and that's just not the case. I've kind of risen, I've risen to my own level of incompetence as a player. I'm not a real fancy player, but I play enough to make music, and and I guess as I progressed, I got into playing music. I got into playing drums. I was a drummer for like through my high school years, and actually guitar players that I had played with in garage bands and things like that, they showed me how to translate what I knew on the ukulele. Those chords, they translated over to guitar, and they showed me how. So that's how I learned, or at least that was my entry into playing guitar. Many years went by. Then there was years I didn't own a guitar even, and I got married and had children, and had no guitar for a while. I woke up one morning and I just said, I need a guitar.
It became part of you. It is part of you without you knowing it.
Yeah, right.
But then you started writing songs. Then how did that happen?
Well, like when I had this kind of epiphany to get back playing. I wanted to learn how to finger pick mainly, which I never really knew how to do. So I met people that could show me how to finger pick, and I took a few lessons at that time. This is like when I re-entered the world, I guess, is with a guitar again, and so I kind of like got some of that playing or some of that technique under my fingers, and was really just playing cover tunes. Bob Dylan things or Jackson Brown things. I mean, I tend toward, I like all kinds of music, but those guitar players intrigued me.
I guess you needed a couple of years to become familiar with what is out there, so that you could combine what you know into something of your own.
Yes, exactly
But how did that happen?
That's very true. I mean, that's insightful, because you do make things your own, and and it's not, students of music. I mean, I guess there's lots of schools of thought on it, but the idea that you need to play something exactly the way the artist played it is one school, and that's a cool thing, and maybe my aforementioned lack of facility on the guitar meant that I just had to make, if I liked a song by another artist, and let's say I didn't have the chops, as they say, to play the way that artist would play. Well, you could play it in your own way.
Absolutely.
And make it your own thing.
Right. When did you realize that? What made you realize that?
I'm not really sure, but it might have just happened organically. It might have happened the minute I gave up trying to play like Jimi Hendrix or
yes.
Or Al Di Meola or some guitar god, and I might have just said, well, that ain't it, and then just went my own way with a song, and it's
So
like interpretation, I guess you would say.
Do you still remember the first song that you wrote?
Let's see. Well, I wrote a tune. Maybe I was in high school, and I wrote a tune that about the Good Humor Ice Cream Man, Mr. Good Humor Man, it was called, and I don't know how or why that happened, and but it was kind of a little jingly kind of song, and so that was the first song, and that's a long, long time ago. But then there was eons that went by, and I didn't write anything more. And it wasn't until the late 90s, the late 1990s, that I started. I don't know, songs started appearing, or coming,
Into your head?
coming up, yeah. And I suppose I always had a song in my heart and in my head, always, every day, something, and some of it was like, whatever, like composition or composing, like just humming, or how you might just go through a day and whistle, like people that whistle like nonsensical things, or hum what appears to be nothing, or just thoughtless kinds of activity, like coming out of you. But so I had done that for a long time, just these, like just humming songs, or but never recording them or never writing them down. And
Did you know how to write music?
No.
Ah.
But to record it or make a record of it, so that later you might say, well, I'll come back to it,
right,
and maybe try something with it. But I would just go on, and later would try to remember what amused me earlier, or delighted me, and I couldn't remember what it was.
That was frustrating. So you
Yeah, well,
decided to.
it didn't bother me that much. You know, I wasn't really maybe that set on. I thought, you know, maybe it was a bit of a, you know, a bit like wasteful in a way. Like these ideas would come and I would just let them go without too much. And maybe they weren't worth saving anyway. That's the way I look at it now in retrospect. Um, I've written a lot of songs since then, like since the early 90s or later 90s when I started writing in earnest. But there's many songs from way back then that I don't even remember, and I couldn't play. I couldn't play if I wanted to. It must be a caller. It must be a fan. Um,
Yeah. This is the Wizard, WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM.
so
Yes.
so anyway, but anyway, when I started kind of writing in earnest, I started writing things down and recording, like taking notes on a cassette recorder, and it just happened, you know, it just happened. But
So
it became.
did you write poetry or did you have a message? What inspired you?
Well, I think when I started writing, really, I think it might have been the confluence of events in my life that where I kind of went inside, and I went inside and tried to. I don't know. I guess became contemplative, and I've always it just started to come out on the guitar and in melodies and in words. When, as a youngster, I always, I guess, enjoyed like creative writing in a way. I mean, the language, my father kind of instilled little bits and pieces of about language and literature. He was well read, and I guess you would say, I don't know what the word would be, like erudite. I mean, he had a above average vocabulary. My mother as well. I mean, they were.
So did they inspire you to artistry or to advocacy? Because you did become an advocate after you became a musician, and then you put the two together.
Yes. Well, that I'm not really sure. I mean, I you know, as far as integrating advocacy into music, that happened maybe much like a song happens. It just came out of nowhere. Like I woke up one day and I had written this song maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. It's called On the Borderline. And that song took me about 6 months to write. And mainly, sometimes the songs can come instantly, or there's just no rhyme or reason, no pun intended, as to how songs come or develop. This one took a long time, 6 months, which is pretty, fairly long for me anyway.
You do work with the National Immigrant Justice Center.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I apologize for my fans calling in. We will get to you, we promise. So one day I woke up with this idea, like, actually it was maybe 2 years ago, I think, and I thought to myself, it just dawned on me, this song I had written, On the Borderline, like I said, it took 6 months to write. I didn't start out to write a song about immigration.
But were you working with to help immigrants at that time?
Not at that time, no.
Okay.
But I mean, I have essentially the song says we're all the same. I think like many people, I don't see, or I believe, I just don't see. I don't think we should see differences or distinct. You know, I mean, people are different and all in their own ways and stuff, but essentially we're the same. And we all deserve the essential dignities and human rights and things like this. But anyway, this song came over 6 months, and it started to come out for some reason. Actually, I don't know why. For some reason, on the borderline, like the title of the tune, that presented itself. And so just that phrase, on the borderline. And so that's where I jumped off when I wrote the song. And then what followed, it's just following that. And over 6 months I followed it. I had the verses done. The chorus came months later. But anyway, so the song was all done and said and done 5 or 6 years ago. And 2 years ago I woke up and I said, maybe I can do something with this song, because there's a bit of a, what do you want to say? There's a message here. And I thought, well, maybe I can, maybe there's a way I can, rather than playing the song like where I do, when I do, if there's any public performances or in my living room, maybe I can actually use this song to help somehow. Maybe this is a way to use something that's been given to me to maybe be able to give something.
Well, you have a gig this Saturday, and you will be playing on the borderline there.
Yes.
And
we have a gig coming up at the Jarvis Square Pottery this Saturday night at 8 o'clock. And it's at this little pottery that is a beautiful art space in Northeast Rogers Park, Jarvis and Greenview. And
there's also a bonfire pit over there too.
yes, there is. And the proprietor, Paul Bick is his name, has created this just absolutely lovely art and performance space. He displays his wares, his pots, and ceramics, I guess you would say. Those are all on display. But in addition to that, there's beautiful artwork hanging on the walls. It's a bit like a Moroccan bazaar inside. It's really unique and comfortable instantly. And there's a stage that he's built and expanded at the window, or in the window, I guess you would say. And he has, over the years, these few years he's been there, he's improved the sound, the acoustics, and the sonic experience in there is lovely, absolutely lovely. So, and the vibe is great, and it's just a great place to play. It holds maybe 50 to 60 people. And we have had performances there now. He probably schedules 2 musical performances a month, but there's been plays in there, there's been lectures in there, horticultural lectures, all kinds of activity there. And so I'm there, booked in there for Saturday night with another band. My band is called The Same.
Why did you name your band The Same?
Well, something musicians do is they're always, they hear something and say, well, it's a good band name. And I've had different band names, I guess. But this one just struck me as being different, paradoxically. Different enough to be, I just found it kind of interesting, and I like it. So.
And there's another band that is going to be playing with you, called No Hero.
No Hero, right. That's a friend of ours, Freddie Harbo, and his band, Alan Rendell and Claire. There's like a 4 or 5 piece band, and they're a lovely band. Mostly the music kind of tends toward, I guess, Americana, but it's beyond that, but if you have to have a label, that would be the label maybe. But, I mean, it's going to be, I'm really excited about the evening. I think it's going to be, in my band, The Same, I have Brian Wilkie playing the pedal steel guitar, and many people probably know Brian. He's kind of an institution in Chicago. He's one of the finest pedal steel players in the city and really in the world. He's just an amazing musician. He's a fantastic guitar player as well. But he'll be playing pedal steel. And I have a drummer. His name is Charles Rumback, and he is a lovely, exquisite, nuanced, like jazz player, I'd say. And he's just a joy to listen to. And on bass joining me is James Frost, a friend of mine. And James is a, you know how they say there's an old there's an old saying like jack of all trades, master of none. But James, you can almost safely say that he's a jack of all trades, and he's a master of all of them. He's a guitarist. He's a drummer. This is his first instrument. He's an amazing drummer, but he's also a fantastic guitar player. He's playing bass with me, and he's really just an interesting musical bass player. But he's also a composer. He writes songs and sings. So that's James Frost, who will be playing bass. And then an old dear friend of mine, Melanie Budd, she'll be singing with me. Her and I go back a long ways, and she sings together. We harmonize, and so she'll be joining me. And then another little surprise might be another very special person in my life, Cara Lee. She may be joining on a vocal as well. So that's my band, The Same. And then No Hero is Freddie and his band. And Freddie will play kind of he writes original music that is just out of this world as well. So, and some people, actually, people have come to me and they say, oh, you have kind of a Neil Young vibe. But Freddie has much the same thing in his own way. Folks liken his music and to Neil Young, and he's like a hero to both of us, you know. So there's kind of that thread that kind of goes through both bands tonight in a way. Although we're the same but different.
Well, it's we've seen your flyer, and it's The Same and No Hero. It seems to reflect what you've been telling me. It reflects your humility and your dedication to the art. And are you going to play on the borderline for us in the studio?
Sure.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'll just launch right in.
Yes. Thank you.
So let's see. Is that coming now? Is that okay?
It's very good.
On the borderline, where so many things are real, here the innocents have so little to reveal. Come to work for food, come to save a family. On the borderline, where so many things are real. Is this how we go on living? How we make our lives complete? All this taking and no giving, hurting you, hurting me doesn't have to be. borderline, they've got all the ways and means. In the grand design, you're just living in between. It's a long, hard climb. You can't stay and you can't leave. On the borderline, when you're anything but free. Is this how we go on living? How we make our lives complete? All this taking and no giving, hurting you, hurting me doesn't have to be. Can't you see? On the borderline, face to face down on your knees. Could be yours or mine, you or me, when you're anything but free. On the borderline, when you're anything but free. On the borderline, when you're anything but free. Is this how we go on living?
Daniel, thank you. That was wonderful. And you're using On the Borderline as for fundraising for the National Immigrant Justice Center. Could you describe a little bit about that for us?
Yes. Well, as I say, 2 years ago or so, it dawned on me that maybe I could use the song to help raise funds.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a Bandcamp page, and I posted the song up on Bandcamp. And I contacted National Immigrant Justice Center. There was another organization that I worked with in the earlier days, but I've since affiliated with the NIJC, National Immigrant Justice Center. And the idea is that folks can go to that Bandcamp page and listen to the song. And the idea is, the way I see it, it's like the confluence of art and social justice or consciousness raising. I don't know. I see it as my hope is that the words and the message can raise consciousness and maybe hopefully change minds even. And so the song is there on the Bandcamp page, and I donate. Folks can download that song from that page, and then I donate 60% of any of the download. I donate that to the NIJC. And so I mention it, where I can. I've emailed it to folks that I know, and so, I mean, I don't have a real wide net. The NIJC has posted it on their Twitter, and so the idea is to really spread the word. I mean, to me, the song, I think about the song as, the way the anthems of the 1960s, the songs that were written about the troubles of those times, helped, carry the message. And so that's what I'm hoping. So I haven't raised a whole lot of money for the NIJC, but I continue to do so when and where I can. And
How much have you raised?
I think it's about $300
Well,
or so.
that's the $300 is hard to raise, so you have done a good job. Hopefully you'll be able to raise more, but $300 because it's people have their expenses. If they're willing to donate,
Yeah.
every cent
Yeah,
matters.
it's a good thing, and it's
Yeah.
helpful for them, and they're appreciative, and I'm not done yet, and
Absolutely.
I haven't really. I mean, this is the first radio kind of promotion I've ever done for it, so I want to do more, and certainly hope to. People, if they would like, I came across a very easy way for folks to actually hear the song, and if they're moved, to donate. And you can do it right on your cell phone by texting. It kind of the old-fashioned way. People can text the word. In the message part, you would type in EZ, the letter E, the letter Z,
Okay.
EZ border, all one word, EZ border. And if you then dial the number 474747 and then send that, you will instantly get a link to the Bandcamp page where you can listen to the song and download if you like, and donate. So it's easy border, texted to 474747.
What is the significance of 47 for you?
Well, that's just the number they ended up giving me at this text
Okay.
service. So it was it was random, I guess, but that's as far as that goes.
It's very easy to remember because it's just the same two numbers repeated 3 times.
Yes, it ended up being kind of an easy to remember thing, which is helpful. So any help, listen to the song, enjoy the song, and if it touches you, help out if you're so moved.
Did you have a mentor in songwriting or in advocacy?
Well, I was raised in a Catholic family, my mother was as well, and I think for sure there was, I come from a family of 9.
Big family.
Yeah, so, you kind of, I don't know, it was just transmitted maybe, not to say, anyway, you just learn things along the way. I think I learned some good things, and I hope that I practice some of them when I get out of the way or whatever.
Well, do you have mentees? Because it seems as if you are very wise in your songwriting and in your advocacy, and there should be some people that want to learn from you.
Well, I teach songwriting at the Old Town School of Folk Music. I moderate a monthly songwriters workshop on the first Friday usually of every month.
What time?
7 to 10 o'clock approximately on the first Fridays of every month.
And people who are interested, they could apply for that workshop?
Yeah, if they go to the Old Town School website, they'll see the, they can look at the calendar, or they can reach that event.
Is your name there so that
Yes.
Daniel Connolly?
Mm-hmm.
Old Town School of Folk Music?
Yes, and that that songwriters workshop has been. In fact, that's one of the first things I discovered as I started writing songs. I was with some friends down on Lincoln Avenue in Lincoln Square. I was going to go to the Davis Theater. We were going to see a movie. I saw this guy walking down the street with his guitar on his back. I said, well, where are you going? And he said, I'm going to the Old Town School. There's a songwriters workshop or something like that. And I said to my 2 friends, I'll see you later. I'm going there, and that was over 20 years ago. And I've been off and on going to that workshop for that long, and I have many dear friends that I met along the way in that workshop. and maybe for the past 5 years or so, or 6 years, I don't know how many, I've been moderating that workshop now. And it's a wonderful place. People gather. They'll kind of they'll have a song they want to play, and in various stages of completion. Some songs are completely done. Some songs the writers are asking for help or opinions, whether if they're on the right track or if the song needs something more or something less. So it's a very supportive, safe environment for people to express themselves and perform.
What is the definition of folk music?
Well, my definition of folk music is, or I don't know, maybe it's, I've heard this definition. It's I mean, unschooled music. I think it would be, you know, maybe way back in the days of Beethoven and Mozart, where they were schooled musicians and literate musicians that could read music and things of this nature.
Okay.
I mean, folk music would be then maybe more the music of the people that were unschooled, the people that just maybe learned music through an oral tradition or, you know, self-taught. Peasant, maybe the peasant class might have been more maybe likely to be folk musicians, which oddly enough is still the case today. No, I'm teasing, but maybe not in some cases. But so that's the distinction I make. So I mean, you could say rock and roll. You could say is folk music. It's most of the purveyors of rock and roll are unschooled and in a lot of cases illiterate musicians. They don't know how to read music, and so I mean, in that definition, you could say, well, rock and rollers are folk. They're playing folk music in that sense. But so I don't know. That's my take on it anyway.
Is there another of your favorite songs that you could play for our audience, since we have you here now?
Let's see. Yeah, what could I play that?
Play live for us.
Oh, I will. I'll play something live. I should have. Let's see. I should have had kind of another one at the ready here. Let's see. Let's
And
see.
this is folk music.
I guess you would say it's folk music. I mean, because I'm not schooled in music. I really don't know how to read music. But I don't look at what I do as folk music per se. I just look at it as music, and I mean, for instance, this performance on Saturday night is going to be with a jazz drummer, and I think I write in my music. I think there's elements of lots of different. I hear jazz in my music. I hear rock and roll in
Could
my
you
music.
play another song that you will be performing this Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Let's see. Let's see. Let me just tune because I care. Let's see. Yeah. Now this is a song that I feel. This is called "Time Only Fading," and I would say this. I mean, I had jazz in my head when I wrote this, and I feel like, you know, this sounds like Wes Montgomery should be like tracking guitar in this song, or George Benson, or and it's somewhat reminiscent of an old Dave Brubeck chestnut called Take 5, which was written in 5/4 time. It was one of the first jazz tunes written in instead of 4/4, 4 counts in a measure, like 5/4 was 5 counts. And Brubeck was kind of famous for writing in these so-called odd time signatures. And the musicians that played with him way back in the 60s, they were kind of presented with the kind of the foreign nature of those time signatures, and they had to kind of acclimate, figure out like how to be musical in those time signatures, because it was something, strange to them. But so this is in four counts, but it sounds like five in a way. It sounds like take five in a way, the song, and at least parts of it. So it's jazz, I guess. It's. Let me just knock that down a little bit. Roll down the window, I could use some air. Step on the gas, come on, let's get on out of here. There's a road before us. There's a way to go. Just a way to go. Sing me that song just like you did before. Lay down the backbeat just like 1964. We got the power steering, we got the 8-track. Got a way to go. Got a way to go. Watch a lifetime disappearing in the rearview mirror, floating out to where the headlights sweep away your fear, and those diesel lamentations ringing in your ear. It's a way to go. Just a way to go. This old town ain't what it used to be. Doesn't anybody know your name? Look around and tell me, what do you see to remind you? Yeah, just don't it remind you? Out on this highway we can be the same. Rolling shadows that are here then gone again, as long as you're beside me. It's a way to go. Just a way to go. And yes, I think this is the answer. Yes, I think that's right. Like a flash of inspiration out of nowhere in the night, when you think about your chances, what another would be like. And the way to go. Just a way to go. This old town ain't what it used to be. Doesn't anybody know your name? Look around and tell me, what do you see to remind you? Don't it just remind you? Remind you? Remind you of a time only fading.
And that was Daniel Connolly, Time Only Fading, one of the songs that he will be playing at a midsummer's evening of unusual musical delights at Jarvis Square Pottery at 1443 West Jarvis Avenue in Rogers Park this Saturday, July 27th from 8 p.m. to midnight.
Indeed. It's going to be a real fun show.
Mm-hmm.
I think complete with a little fire pit outside on the patio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the weather promises to be great.
Right.
So it really is going to be a fun hang,
Mm-hmm.
as they say. So
What advice do you have for students and the community about being an artist and an advocate?
well, I read something, I don't know, that Gandhi said, just a little thing. Somebody posted it on Facebook. I thought it was really fantastic. I don't know much about it, and I've never really read Gandhi, but the essence of what Gandhi, the essence of what he said was, it was about nonviolence. His whole approach to change was through nonviolence, And he said, he more or less said that if there's any violence in it anywhere, it kind of negates the whole,
Too much of a ripple effect is
Yeah.
what he meant.
yeah, the whole message is somehow perverted. And, I mean, I think he's right. I mean, when I think about it, that sounds right to me. And so what I would, and I'm not any, I mean, I wrote that song and I have tied it in to a cause, and I'm happy to be able to do that. But I'm more of an artist than I am an advocate. I mean, that's my calling, I believe. I mean, the way I feel about the tenor of our times is that, I mean, I think about what Gandhi, that quote that I came across not long ago that I just, paraphrased, is this idea that I think the discourse has to be lowered, or the inner, or the verbally, there's lots of verbal violence in the discourse.
Yes.
And, really, it's understandable people are I mean, there's all kinds of injustice and abuse, and I mean, on every side of an issue. And I see, the way I think, outside, if you kind of pull back, you see it from both sides, extremists on both sides of these issues. And there's more heat being generated than light, as they say. And I mean, so you hope for the lowering of the, I don't know what you want to say, somehow civility, having more civility, allowing that enter in to the discourse, as far as the rhetoric goes, and the,
I think what you're saying is that we should quell the fire but keep the glow.
right, that's the way to say it. How do you say that again?
Quell the fire
Mm-hmm.
and keep the glow.
Yeah, I like that. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just hard enough to practice in our daily lives.
Absolutely.
With the people we love and the people we're associated with. It's just hard to even practice, civility sometimes, even with the people closest to us. So the idea is maybe, and I don't know. I mean, talk is cheap, and I feel even hypocritical to even be talking, because I should be maybe the last one to. I see the sense in it, but as a practitioner, I probably wouldn't grade myself very highly, But we can all try, and the next second is another way to try. You know what I mean? To do it better the next time, So
Make the most of every moment. Make the best of every moment.
yeah, and as far as giving advice to artists or creative people, I try to encourage people, and even people that sometimes I meet people, oftentimes, and they say, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't write, or I've tried. I said, you just I tell people, just start with a blank piece of paper and just write things down, or let whatever comes. And maybe you'll have baskets full of crumbled up pages, maybe. But maybe you'll stumble upon something that you like too, and that you want to develop. And just go with that, and see what happens. And so start the process and don't be afraid. Just do it. Fill up. Start to write on a page or draw on a page. Do something. Sing. You know, because people say I can't sing. I said, just sing. Who cares? You know. And the more you do it, usually you kind of you find your voice, or you know, or the better you might get in if whatever better is. But you might find your voice. And so I'm just all for like people just, you know, doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, eventually you found your voice, and eventually you found on the borderline. Could you describe again how people who want to donate to the National Immigrant Justice Center could download your song
Sure.
and donate as well?
Yes. Well, it's through the text is probably the easiest way to do it. And so you would you would write in the message EZ, the letter E, the letter Z, border, all one word, EZ border. And then you would dial or, you know, send the text to the number 474747. And that on your text message right away will bounce back a link to the song. And you can listen to the song, and if you're so moved, you can download the song.
Mm-hmm. And did you say that 60% of the proceeds will go to the National Immigrant Justice Center?
Yes, yep.
And tell us a little bit about what the National Immigrant Justice Center does.
Well, they're, you know, I'm not sure of the numbers. They're located in Chicago, and they serve the Chicago area, and they also serve the Northwest Indiana. And primarily, what they work with immigrants and refugees, primarily, and they serve them, they're comprised of like a staff of pro bono attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
And they address the legal needs of people on the ground for no charge, and they help them if they're kind of tangled up in our legal system.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing really critical work. They're also incredible advocates, and they're present in Washington. They lobby. They're just, you know, they're active everywhere. They're doing great work for you know, the least of us in our society, the people that really are you know, I mean, it's just there's just all kinds of struggle, and they're helping in this particular area.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing really great work, and I'm really happy to help, however I can with this song. So.
Well, I could. WZRD has a PSA for the National Immigrant Justice Center, and let me read it. It's the National Immigrant Justice Center is a nonprofit organization that provides comprehensive legal immigration services. If you have a question regarding an immigration matter, you may consult with the National Immigrant Justice Center in person or by telephone. The National Immigrant Justice Center has information on general immigration law, excluding student and business visas. It has information on deportation and removal defense. It has information on immigrant victims of violence, trafficking, and other crimes. It has information on family-based immigration. There is information on consular processing and waivers, as well as information on naturalization and citizenship. To schedule an appointment or speak with a National Immigrant Justice Center legal worker in person or by phone, please call 312-660-1370. Well, Daniel, this was Daniel Connolly, songwriter, musician, and advocate. Wizard, it's very thankful to have you here, Daniel, and the best of luck to all your future work, and we see a very bright future ahead for everything that you do.
Well, that's great, Trudy. Thanks so much for inviting me. Really, it was a pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity. And like I said when we started out, I'm very heartened, I guess you would say, or I don't know what the word is, but I appreciate your conviction in helping where you can, like you're doing right now, and you and Bill. I see. I'm glad to know you two.
We're glad to
Yeah.
know you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And this is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, The Wizard.